Good morning, everyone. Welcome to NCLF 2021 and to the APAPA sponsor segment on Unity Through Healing, Stand Up and Speak Out, and Creating Future of Racial Harmony with AAPI Leaders. I'm Marsha Galanco. I'm one of the APAPA chapter leaders, and with us today, we have all chapter leaders from APAPA, and they will introduce themselves. As we all know, AAPI as a group has always been being victimized, I would say, or put in a lesser situation of position. As clear as in the last century, the Chinese railroad workers, and in another century, during the Second World War, the Japanese internment situation. And even today, at the present time, we experience the anti-Asian hate situation because of the pandemic. And we are being scapegoat, and we are being blamed for whatever or not is working. And we are going to change all that. We're going to heal the past. We're going to present with you the present situation and the success we have, and create a vision. That is, we are creating a movement. So with us today, we have 4 chapter leaders, APAPA chapter leaders, who will introduce themselves and share with you the path that they are all community leaders. And why are they interested to participate in public affairs? And 2 of us are political leaders. And why are you interested? So let's invite Mr. Henry Yin, who is the president of APAPA's Bay Area region. Henry, please share your story.
Thank you, Marsha. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Henry Yin, being the National Vice Chair and the Bay Area Region President. I'm very honored to represent APAPA, sponsoring and participating in this program with moderator Marsha and the 3 other panelists. For 20 years, APAPA has been devoting its tireless efforts to racial harmony and community unity, while promoting proactive participation by APIA in public affairs and civic engagements. At the present time, I'm mainly engaged with House of Representatives, APAPA, State of California, Rotary International, Citizens for Better Community, which is a local community organization in Silicon Valley, which I co-founded 30 years ago, plus other minors. Now, in 1988, I learned something which caused a big impact to my community services for the next 33 years, and still going on. After I lost my first political campaign running from local public office positions, I learned that community unity and racial harmony could be long-lasting if will be planted in deep grassroots with fellow citizens in a broader basis, crossing not only commonly need issues such as education, neighborhood safety, but also civic affairs and business interest. So furthermore, our volunteering efforts would effectively make a bigger impact to a larger base of a community once our actions and voices will be brought up from local to region to state, even to the federal. So that happened to be the recap of my more than 33 years involvement. But thank you again for this opportunity to share and to exchange.
Thank you, Henry. We're going to ask you more questions later on, but next we move to Sabina Savar. Sabina is an immigrant originally from Pakistan. Sabina, share with us your path as an immigrant. What interested you to be a community leader, and you devoted your time in political too.
Thank you so much, Marcia. My name is Sabina Zafar, and currently I'm a board member of APAPA, as well as serve as a council member with the city of San Ramon, which according to the latest 2020 statistics is 51% API now. So I moved to the United States about 25 years ago as a young 20-year-old, went to college here. Everything that we do as first-generation immigrants, kind of build our life here, have kids, go to, send them to school, start our careers in technology. Like a lot of, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of us do have technology careers, and that's kind of, we're well educated, we want to work hard, we want to build our lives. So that's really the path I had been following, just building my life, making sure I was raising my kids well, they were going to good schools. Life brought me to San Ramon 16 years ago, and it was a beautiful community. When I moved to San Ramon, the population was actually 44,000, and it was primarily Caucasian population. In the 15 years that I lived here, the population of San Ramon doubled in size as we build more housing, and today it's 85,000. And the population that came to San Ramon was very, very similar to kind of myself. Asian Americans, a lot of first-generation immigrants. And when we talk about Asian Americans, you're talking about 4.1 billion people in the world. People who were working hard, building their lives here. But when I looked, and I was one of those PTA moms doing, things we do in the multicultural events and things like that. But as my kids grew older, as San Ramon matured as a community, and as our population grew, what I started noticing was that there was a lack of representation at our council level, where there was, number one, no woman, there was no Asian. And it's very important for me, it was very important that we see that community representation. With my background in Pakistan, I had also grown up in a family which was always involved in public service. My dad, my grandfathers had all served in the public. And for me, it was after spending 25 years in this country, this is where my roots are. This is where I'm raising my family. This is where I will eventually have grandchildren as well. So I really wanted to make sure that I'm rooted, and I felt that this new young population that had come to San Ramon also felt rooted. So I said, if not myself, then who else is going to run? So that's kind of what motivated me. I got involved with a few campaigns, which I'm like, I will do this at some point. But when you start thinking about that some point comes much faster than you realize. And before I knew it, I was running for office. And one of the thing that really surprised me as well was how many young people became part of my journey. My kids both went to high school here at Doherty Valley, which is 98%, kids of Asian ethnic background. And a lot of these kids really wanted to be part of the journey. And we kind of just built this campaign year over year of kids who wanted to get involved, who wanted to serve, who wanted to understand what civic engagement was. And today I was 4 or 5 years later, as I've been involved, some of them are now in college studying public policy, civic engagement. And so that makes me really proud. So that's a little bit about, my journey and where I am today. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Well, thank you, Sabina. And one thing that stood out what you share is, if it's not me, who? So I hope our audience will catch that. That is really the essence. Well, next, we are happy to have Sean Kumagai. Sean is American-born of Japanese heritage. Tell us what interested you to engage and participate in public affairs.
Yeah, thank you, Marcia. And it's really a pleasure to be on this panel with all of these distinguished Tri-Valley leaders. Like Sabina, I'm a board member of the Apapa Tri-Valley chapter and currently serving as vice mayor in the city of Dublin. In my day job, I'm also district director for our Assembly member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. And in my other job, in my past career, I'm a United States Navy veteran. So it's been the honor of my lifetime to serve in various capacities. And I mean, as you can see, service is a passion of mine. It's kind of in my DNA. I'm a third generation veteran. My mom served in the Army. My grandfather was in the U.S. Army Air Corps, the predecessor to the Air Force. My uncle, my mom's brother, was an Air Force Academy grad and pilot. And now my younger brother just joined the Army. So it's kind of become a tradition of ours to serve our country. And as I was winding down in my military service career, I decided I was going to resettle in Dublin, which is where my Navy Reserve unit is. And I was looking for other ways to serve. And in 2016, I really felt compelled to get off the sidelines and start getting involved with political activism and political organizing. Initially, I was doing a lot of volunteer work and in an issue area that I'm very passionate in, that is around immigrant rights. My father is a first-generation immigrant from Japan. So growing up in a mixed family, you know, my mother's white, American-born, and growing up in a mixed family, immigration was just part of our story. So when, you know, the national discourse turned to issues of immigration and around racial animus, I really felt compelled to get involved. And what I found was that being involved at the local level was so much more satisfying to me, because you are closer to the people that are affected, but you're also closer to the decision makers. You know, sometimes we think only about what's happening at the federal government level, what's happening in Congress, but it's really hard to access that. And there's so many moving parts, and it can sometimes be frustrating. What I found in doing my political organizing work is that city councils and county governments and school boards are making decisions that impact people's everyday lives. And you only have to convince a majority of a very small board, you know, usually that's 3 people, about moving in a certain direction, and you can really impact change. So in 2018, when a spot opened up in our Dublin City Council, I really felt like it was appropriate for me to run at that time and to get involved as an elected official. And it's really been an amazing experience to lead in that capacity, and I hope to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sean. It's an amazing journey. We'd love to hear more of that later on. How about Margaret? Margaret, you are also an immigrant, and you are very, very active in civic engagement and community affairs. Share with us, you being a mother of 2 and also a busy working, I would say high executive, and then you are serving as Apapa Tri-Valley chapter's president. How do you find the time and convert your or combine your passion into reality?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Marcia. And really, it's truly an honor to be speaking today with really a lineup of distinguished leaders in the Tri-Valley. I'm really humbled. Currently, I'm serving as the board president of the Apapa Tri-Valley chapter. I don't wear as many hats as all of you do over here, but I do also serve as the Heritage and Cultural Art Commission in the City of Dublin, as well as economic advisor for Dublin Chamber of Commerce. I, like Sabina and Henry and Marsha, was an immigrant. I came here when I was 13 years old. I was a high school student. I remember very vividly, I was in the ESL class, and there was one time the teacher was planning on a field trip. And she threw the question to us. So there are two options, and which one would you like to go? And or if you have a better idea, please raise that up. To me, coming from, People's Republic of China, this is actually a shocking moment for me. It's a cultural shock, really. I get to decide. I mean, growing up, we were told, you need to do this. You need to go there. This is your itinerary. You were told what to do. And this is the first time that I, as a 13 years old, was being asked of my opinion. And this is my first taste of the fact that I can make the decisions in my life that impacts, my journey. This kind of moment continued to carry on. And what I have learned and carrying on is that 80% of the success is presence. And America is founded on democracy, as the previous example was. And that is a right that many people, whether it's native, especially immigrants, take for granted. We were not used to do that. But our Constitution protect our right to voice and help shape the government policies that impact our life. And it is everybody's right. And like Sabina said earlier, if it is not me, then who? So it is upon ourselves to exercise this right and to shape the policy that impact ours as well as the future generations' life. And I really got involved when I started to have my kids, and I know the importance of their involvement in shaping the policy that governs their future world. And to me, I am especially fortunate to be surrounded by really capable, intelligent, and energized leaders such as, Henry, Sean, Sabina, and many more that is on our board. I am actually feeding off from their energies and motivated truly to serve the community. I think we lead by serving. And I truly believe that API leaders get to have a place to help shape our futures. So thank you, Marsha.
Thank you, Margaret. And I'm sure the audience are enjoying you sharing your journey. But as we know, being AAPI, a community, throughout the history, and especially during the present time, we are facing difficulties and challenges, but we don't want to dwell on the negative, and share with us what challenges you face and how did you turn negative into positive. And in other words, there's this saying that says, turn lemon into lemonade, so that you could learn something from it and apply it in your life. So shall we go through the same sequence for this question? Henry, will you be the first, and then Sabina, and then Sean, and then Margaret?
Thank you so much, Marsha. Speaking of challenges, I'd like to share some numbers with everyone over here. When we talk about community unity, we need to look at a couple other model minorities in certain definition. We look at the Jewish community. They have very, very powerful AIPAC. When we look at African Americans, they have a very powerful NAACP. We also realize the Hispanic community happen to have their own very powerful one voice and one position organizations combined. Unfortunately, myself as Chinese American, I look at my own folks. Unfortunately for Asia also, for Asians, we haven't seen any of we call the collective efforts and very strong unity among Asians. Sometimes we live in a kind of, I would call the comfortable zone. For instance, in the city of Fremont, where I have been there for 40 some years, or like, for example, city of Cupertino, Asian happen to be more than 50, even 60%. So we feel very comfortable that Asian happen to be the majority. But for the entire California, we are probably a very small percentage. I would say probably 16%, if I'm correct. But if we look at the nationwide, Asians only accountable for probably 6%. So percentage-wise, we are very small. So that's a challenge, I would say, happen to be ourselves. How we be able to convince ourselves that for the numbers, we happen to be disadvantaged, and we really need to work harder in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. How about Sabina?
Thank you, Marcia. I think one of the things is, right, as new first-generation immigrants, we may not have the history of being involved in our governments for years and years. And there's, in smaller cities and local government, there's always this, thing about it's your turn when you come now. It's this person's turn. You have to do all of these things. So one of the things, I always like to talk about is being told it's not my turn yet, right? I have to wait out my turn. There's other people that have been waiting in line for a few years, and they're going to, they need to step into this and wait in line. And that was one of the things, which is like, what do you mean it's not my turn? Who gets to decide it's not my turn? So I think that is something a lot of people that will run for local office will experience, and especially women will experience, where they're told, wait your turn, do all this other stuff, and then you can qualify to be on the city council. Well, your family and you get to decide, and your friends get to decide. If you're ready for something, if you're ready to serve, then it is your turn. You have to understand the lay of the land. It is a lot of times an inner circle that gets to decide and makes a lot of these decisions. And as more of us get a seat at that table, as we get involved, we kind of bring our own network and expose our own network to what that inner circle truly looks like. So I think those were two challenges as I was running for council. And eventually people saw me as, oh, she's serious about this. She's not doing this, just to run and completely disrupt our community. And so I think those were the two challenges I certainly experienced. Another one was being a Muslim. You don't wear your religion on your arm, but somebody will come and ask you, so as a Muslim, are you going to change the laws, and what are you going to do? And you're like, honestly, I'm here to make sure your potholes are fixed, and doesn't matter what my religion is, because the potholes don't care about that. So I think these are the kinds of conversations you almost have to learn to give answers for as well, and help people understand that you're part of the community. And we're all Americans, and we're all passionate about serving our community and building it for the next generation, whether we're first generation immigrant or 11th generation immigrant. We're all Americans in the end and serving our communities.
Sabina, is so well said. We are all Americans. We are all here to serve. And I would like to hear from Sean. Sean, I'm sure as a person and as a AAPI community leader, what are challenges that you face, and how do you overcome those?
Well, I want to, this is a very good question, Marcia, and I think it's important that we talk about challenges. I want to talk about, kind of personal challenge, and then perhaps, some of our community challenges really quickly. On a personal level, I would say, one of the biggest challenges is self-doubt. And I think everyone has some degree of self-doubt. Growing up, my dad used to always tell me, well, just don't get involved with politics, because in he comes from a Japanese culture, and they're pretty apolitical, and sorry, Dad, I got involved with politics, but he also always told me, as long as you're happy, just go after your passion. And so that's what I did. But still, self-doubt is a real thing. And I think, Sabina really hit on this, is that people will tell you it's not your time, it's not your turn. Why are you doing this? They'll think you have some kind of ulterior motives. And you have to kind of learn to overcome that every day as you serve. So, for those who are not sure if service is for them, or if they're self-doubting, I would just say you can do it. And we need your voice. We need every voice at the table, because it's that diversity that helps us solve some of the biggest challenges that our communities are facing. So the second thing I want to hit on as a kind of challenge is that of our community. And the AAPI community, it's not a monolith. It's an extremely diverse community. You think worldwide, we represent half the population of the world, all hundreds of different ethnic groups and language, all these different languages and religions. So, sometimes when here in the US, we organize around the AAPI community, there are paradoxes. There are conflicts that go back to the old world. And we have to recognize that and learn to talk through that and find out, okay, well, what are our common values? What are the things that we want to do together? And, I think a big part of that is solidarity. You get past the most controversial issues and you find out what it is that really forms us as an AAPI community and our experience here in the United States. And we say, okay, how can we work together to overcome this challenge? And, I think this past year with the Asian hate, we saw a lot of solidarity. We saw people come together, working together for a common cause. And that is that, no one should have to tolerate hate in any form in this country. And we saw that. I was very heartened to see AAPI youth show up at Black Lives Matter protests, to see AAPI people show up at LGBTQ pride festivals and expressions of pride. And it's through that solidarity that we're all going to work together.
Thank you, Sean. It is so true that individually we are like a drop, but collectively we are like an ocean. And it is together we will support each other. And how about you, Margaret? Share with us challenges and especially you being a working mom and community leader, and individually, and I'm sure as Asian women, there's always something that will be a challenge for you.
Thank you, Marsha. I think Sean, Sabina, Henry hit some really, really good point. What I may add to that is there are two things. One, I feel our youth is our future. And I'm a strong believer that our API youth are fully capable of becoming that leader that unites us all. In one of the biggest challenges that they're facing is actually the stereotype, the vision that Asian, especially Asian kids, they're more introverted. There's a study machine. They take math classes, they study to learn piano, but they don't care about much about anything else, and especially not in politics. we were trained that way. I mean, like Sean, right? My mom told me, please, you can be in philanthropy, just don't get into politics. We were learned that way. But you'll be amazed. Our youth, our young adults are especially intelligent, they're capable, and they have been observing and absorbing. They can understand the concept and the complex issue that we are dealing with in the adult world. I had my own awakening moments about a year ago. I was talking to my daughter. She was 8th grader last year. Before that time, we were talking and we had some disagreement. So my daughter said to me, Mommy, we humans have 2 eyes and each have a different perspective than each other. And we humans are designed to be in constant negotiation between different perspectives. And it gives us depth. And so it's okay that we have different opinions. We can share different perspectives. And I was speechless, and obviously I did not win the argument. But it's really a sign that our kids, they are observing, they're absorbing, they're understanding, and they have more wisdom than we actually give them credit for. And that's why I am so passionate about our APAPA's internship program, which I believe is really preparing our kids in becoming the future of API leaders. And the second thing I would like to add on top of what Sean has said is to join in solidarity. And I think to become that person to unite between different community, the first thing that our kids are learning to do is to focus on the commonalities. I mean, we have so many different perspectives, even within our family. I mean, my husband and I sometimes have very different opinions, especially during election seasons and whatnot. So it's very easy to understand that different communities, even within the Asian population itself, may have differences in their approach on different issues. But as a leader, how do we unite these communities together? We focus on the commonality first, and we have to constantly remind ourselves of the original intent. We are here, we want better future for better representation for AAPI community, and our mission is to advance AAPI civic leadership. So constantly, if we keep that in mind, then we can help curb the discussion and help unite different communities together. So those are the approach that I have.
Well, those are really great advice to our audience, that we always look at the big picture. Now we are really getting into the essence of our segment. Is into, well, after we learn to stand up and speak out, and then we put our challenges as a learning lesson. Share with us your vision on AAPI leaders, as we are the ones leading in the front, leading, creating racial harmony. And from what I listened to all of you great presenters, that you're sharing your wisdom, you're sharing your knowledge and expertise. And how could we lead the nation in improving our racial relationship, in racial harmony? So without in any order, if you come up with something to share with the audience, go ahead.
Well, if you don't mind, I will take the first couple of minutes. Thank you again. I'm so touched and motivated by Margaret when she reminds me about solidarity and also about Sean's experience and Sabina. And I like Sabina, I like your quote, it's definitely our term, so who else? I have to share with everyone in the audience a few examples of how the Asian Americans in the Fremont, New York Union City are doing a more proactive way of promoting the community unity. I just like to bring up this again, a few examples. Back to August in 2018, that was exactly 3 years ago. We start realizing it's about time for us to call, and we put together an event called One Community, One World. It's a summer concert format, but in only an hour and a half, the Chinese community, Asian community together with APAPA, CBC, and the Rotary. Now we'll put this the summer concert highlighting the culture from Chinese, Indo-Americans, Japanese, and many others into one event. And that was turned out to be very, very harmful, and again, very, very, very pleasant, very enjoyable. Recently, only a week ago, we again, 7 local Asian community organizations put together a fundraising to support Afghan refugees. We want to send this very loud and clear message to everyone that we, as part of the community, care about other part. And we like to share with them and show them our action and voices. Early this year, when I start realizing the community happened to have a very strong and a very unneeded divisiveness, we started with a civic forum calling APIs to have open communications about different ideas or different opinions, again, nonpartisan or bipartisan. But most important is how we can be able to shorten the differences, again, for a stronger solidarity. Last not the least, I very, very admire Margaret's comments about how we can put efforts into our next 1 or 2 generations, the youth. So APAPA and the Rotary and many others happen to have very, very successful internship program. And that's exactly one way that we constantly develop strong leaders from the youngest one. Furthermore, recently, I called for another unity I call Bay Area Youth API Network. And I was able to put 7 different API youth groups together. And they start realizing, oh, good. One part very enjoying art, the other one very interesting in civic and so forth, so on. So all those are the vision and the action that we like to put into very proactive role. Thank you again.
Thank you, Henry.
If you want to continue the order, then I'll go next. I just want to say, as the first ever elected Asian American in San Ramon, I hold that as a very big responsibility because, like, you know, Sean mentioned this as well, and Henry talked about it. Asia is such a diverse and large continent, and probably the most, you know, different cultures that come together. So I really want to take that responsibility and make sure that I reach out. One of the best things about being elected at the same cycle as Sean has been that he has been an amazing partner with me. As you know, he comes up with something or somebody approaches him, he reaches out to me. If somebody comes up, you know, at our council, I reach out to him. And having that partnership of another elected in the Tri-Valley has been phenomenal. So first off, you know, I really want to thank Sean for that. And then really being part of the APAPA board has been another great partnership, right? With Marcia, with Margaret, with Henry, being able to find out about the different events that are happening, different things we're doing, because we also, as humans, like to celebrate our cultures and our heritage. And sometimes all these events happen in pockets. And my goal is, how do we bring each other together through our celebrations? Having said that, San Ramon is having a culture in the community. So I do ask everyone to come and represent their culture, because we are truly a fabric of these different communities. So I think that's very, very important, to make sure that as electeds, we get invited, we get called out at these different events. And how do we highlight these different communities and find a way to bring them together as well? And we learn from each other, and we empower each other, and make each other aware. And that comes from building relationships, and making sure you're out there in the community, people know you're there. And then, like Henry mentioned, through our youth are a very powerful community that is really kind of, I call the rising youth here in the Tri-Valley and in the Bay Area, and they want to be involved. And through the youth, the parents get involved because they find out from their kids what's going on. So all of those are kind of the tools in a back pocket that we use to make sure we connect and bring the community together.
Thank you, Sabina.
Yeah, and I also have really enjoyed the partnership with Sabina. San Ramon and Dublin are neighboring cities, and we share a very similar demographics and kind of growth patterns. So as San Ramon has doubled in size, so has Dublin. So we face many of the same opportunities and challenges. So I think one of the wonderful things about being an elected official in the Bay Area is that it is a larger community, and we have so many, the full diversity, the full spectrum of diversity of the Asian Pacific Islander community here in the Bay Area. So, we get to meet with other elected officials and really kind of collaborate on some of these topics. In terms of racial harmony and how we can play a role going into the future, I think that, for me and in my upbringing, one of the kind of cultural aspects of my culture, and perhaps this is common to some other Asian cultures, is just, don't rock the boat. Just be quiet, and let's not make too much of noise about this or anything, and let's get through it, and let's work hard, and everything will be fine. And I think what we're finding, especially what we saw last year with the anti-AAPI hate, is that sometimes we do have to speak up. And it's okay to say that something is not all right, or that we're being negatively impacted. And I think that's so much about what civic engagement is. It can be really hard to speak up and speak out for yourself or for your community, particular in the face of adversity. Sometimes, people don't want their neighbors to be screaming at them about an issue. It can be really tough. So I really take that responsibility seriously. And I think all AAPI leaders really need to understand they're representing the voiceless at times, people who feel that because either of their culture or their own fears that they can't put themselves out there and speak up. So I really encourage those leaders who feel they can take on that responsibility, they can take on that burden, that they really step up into positions of leadership, because it's so important that we have AAPI leaders who are willing to put themselves out there and speak up for their communities, because not everyone can. And I think through that process, we will achieve racial harmony. As long as our voices are heard, then people in the communities will feel like their issues are being taken into consideration, and we will get past, some of the racial animus that we've seen in our society.
Thank you, Sean. Got so much out of what you share. And Margaret, we are excited to hear your vision.
Well, I mean, you know what Sean and Sabina is doing for the AAPI community in the region of Tri-Valley is phenomenal. There are a lot of community that might be silent, but you truly don't understand their appreciation of having an AAPI representative up there until they're elected, until they feel that, oh, this is somebody that I can trust, somebody that I can share my opinion with. And here, this is the one thing I think is very important in building and leading to racial harmony is the word trust. We don't, each individual community don't live in a silo, and we live in community. And I think one of the very key things that we need to do, and we have been doing, is to build alliance, to reach out and with organizations or communities with similar mission or initiative, to reach out to them and work together and to collaborate. It maximizes its effect, and along the same time, we build trust with each other. We feel, people feel that you're responsible, you're reliable, you're really caring. Then they start to trust you, they start to open up the dialogue, and then you can engage in a more productive communication and discussion on issues. And second thing, I think that is very important is also to take actions, to initiate. In the example of the last year, when we see so many uptick of racial hate crimes against AAPI community, many youths don't know what is the right thing to do, even though they're really angry inside, but they don't know how to express or how to react in moments like this. But certain youth leaders, they took actions. For example, in Millbrae, there was a 13-year-old girl. She loves fashion, design, and whatnot, but she sees the hate crime, the violent acts against our AAPI seniors, and she feels very strongly and so compelled about this. She herself organized a teenager-led rally. It actually, in fact, attracted hundreds and hundreds of supporters. They come from many different diversified backgrounds, and they come here to support her cause. And it is only when you take actions and don't wait for others to say the things that you feel. You can step up, you can speak up, and you will find that actually you have a lot more support than you give yourself credit for. So those are the two things.
That's so great. And thank you all panel speakers. You all share your wisdom and experience. And one thing, I think we learned so much from this segment. And who knows, we definitely is part of the movement. And I want to thank NCLF for including us in this segment, for inviting us, and also APAPA to sponsor this amazing segment. Thank you, and see you in another occasion.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.